So, my friends, truly from the bottom of my heart, with all of my soul, as corny as it sounds, I thank you. I thank you in whatever capacity you've been part of my Free to Be Mindful community. And whether you've listened to just one episode, if this is your very first one, or all 270 up to this point, whether we've connected here in the therapy space, whether it be through his speaking engagement, through podcasting on YouTube, or even through an Ollie visit, I really appreciate you. And I know that you mean so much to me, and I want you to know that your presence in any capacity really matters, and it is really, really appreciated. You are listening to the Free to Be Mindful podcast, which invites you along on a journey to learn of mindful living, grow in mental health, and inspire through personal growth. In a world where we can often feel much stress and overwhelm, this podcast provides bite-sized tips and real talk conversations, empowering you to embrace mindfulness and nurture your full potential. I'm your host, Vanessa de Jesus Guzman, licensed therapist, retired educator, entrepreneur, and mom of two. I'm passionate about helping busy moms reduce the overwhelm and to live life intentionally without losing their, well, here we go. Hello and welcome to episode 270 of the Free to Be Mindful podcast. I hope that you're feeling good, looking good, and doing better in this world than you were yesterday. Today is a very, very special episode. I think I'm looking okay if you're watching this on YouTube. And I am not just feeling good, I am feeling great because this week we are celebrating 6 years of Free to Be Mindful. 6. And this includes, when I say Free to Be Mindful, the therapy practice, speaking engagements, the podcast, all of the things. And just think about what happens in the lifespan of a 6-year-old. They go from newborn to infant to baby to toddler to primary age kids. They learn how to roll over, how to babble, sit up, walk, hold something, say one-word things, walk on their own, and then talk in full sentences. And they go from being at home to daycare, maybe, and eventually to preschool, kindergarten, and from 6 years old, even to first grade. So think of all of that that happens in a child's life. And that is what has happened in the last 6 years, except Free to Be Mindful started off as a little thought, and now we are in school running and doing all the things. And this has been so much fun. There has been so much that has happened in the last 6 years, both personally and professionally. And I want to take the opportunity to share that with you because so often we just see the final product, but you don't often see the messy middle and all of the feelings that go along with that. So 6 years ago, Free to Be Mindful started as a part-time dream. And at that time, I was still working full-time as a middle school counselor. And it took 7 long years to take the additional courses to earn the additional 4,800 hours needed to become a licensed therapist. And back then, my goal was simple. It was just to have a private practice part-time, work until 3 p.m. at schools, and maybe see a client or two after school, go home, and be happy. And I was so sure of this dream that I established Free to Be Mindful, the business, in May of 2019 and focused my energy on building my Amiga Moms community. Then by September 2019, I signed a lease to this very first office, hoping to get my license the following month. But as life would have it, the state of New Jersey didn't count 8 months worth of my hours. So there I was paying for this office, but unable to provide therapy because I still wasn't fully licensed. So, of course, I cried. And of course, I felt sorry for myself for the moment. And then I had to pivot because that's just what you do in order to move on and progress. So then I started offering mindfulness classes. I continued to host Amiga Moms events within the office here, the Real Mom Talks, and then out bigger and outside of events outside of the office. And then of course, we know what happened in March 2020. the world shut down and I kept paying for an office that I couldn't even step foot into. Finally, almost a full year later, in August 2020, the state approved my hours and then I became fully licensed. And by the way, when I say fully licensed, what that means is that you can practice without needing supervision. That's just the only difference. And at that time, I still thought that I could hold a part-time dream of, going to school and then coming into private practice part-time. But between the pandemic and then just life unfolding, it quickly became clear that part-time was just not sustainable. And for a while, I flirted with the idea of leaving my 18-year career in education, but the possibility always seems like so far away and so out of reach. And I always thought, like, how foolish would I be to leave the tenure and the benefits, the insurance, all the things that a job like being an educator has. But one night in October 2021, it was the night before my son's birthday. We had back to school night at my job, right? And because the district was still really careful after the pandemic, parents weren't allowed in the building, but staff members had to be in the building and see the parents virtually. And it was from 7 to 9 p.m. And I only had one parent from 7 to 9 p.m. One parent visited my Zoom room. And other than that, I just was sitting there by myself thinking about the tradition that my son and I usually do of like recapping the year and just getting ready for the next day to turn 1 year older. So I remember leaving the building at 9 p.m., driving home like a maniac, getting home at 9:30, and he was already asleep in my bed. My husband was like, he was up there waiting for you and fell asleep in the bed. And that, my friends, was the deciding factor, believe it or not. That was the night where I said, this just isn't worth it. I was so upset. And it was one of the biggest turning points in my life, taking that leap, stepping away from full time work, from tenure, from benefits, from pension to embrace entrepreneurship fully. And it wasn't always easy. It was scary AF, but it was the best decision that I ever made because it was the beginning of something that has really led to incredible moments and beautiful, beautiful connections. So, along these 6 years, I have grown my Amiga Moms community. I started the Free to Be Mindful podcast that you're listening or watching to. I have presented at conferences. I've grown a national presence. I've appeared on national TV, and I have really expanded the speaking side of my career, which I adore. And I have also co founded another business. And fast forward to this past year, it's safe to say that it's been a season unlike any other with the birth of my daughter, 10 years after I first became a mom. If you're listening to this in real time, she is almost 1 year old, which is bananas. So, if you're a long-time listener, you already know that balancing motherhood and entrepreneurship this past year has been hard. Hard. I talk about it on the podcast and I go more into depth in my newsletters. If you don't get those, go to freetobemindful.com and sign up. I am really much more transparent via the newsletters. And it's been a humbling and beautiful experience all at the same time. There have been plenty of moments that have and continue to stretch me, to challenge me, and to remind me to really practice what I preach. I've had what it seems so many internal battles of giving myself permission to just slow down and finding presence in the chaos. That part I'm good at, but nurturing this new season of life and nurturing myself, that I'm still working on. And this entire experience was like being a professional NASCAR race driver when you're used to going like a gazillion miles an hour. And then unexpectedly, you're told, excuse me, your new profession is now being a bumper car driver. You're not used to the bumper cars. You're not used to going slow. You're not used to bumping into the walls and cars and other people. And when you're used to going fast with nothing in your way, and now you need to slow down and crash every 2 seconds, that's my new normal. That's motherhood in a nutshell. So it's been challenging to say the least. And that's why my word for 2025 was nurture, which again, I still have to work on. And I still have to remind myself regularly to not only nurture my therapy practice, my speaking relationships, the podcast, but also, and more importantly, to nurture myself. So, in the sixth year of Free to Be Mindful, to make space for that necessary nurturing that I, again, am not so good at, apparently, I've also tried to be more intentional with my time. Half of it out of, yes, being intentional, and half of it just of understanding that I only have so much childcare and that I have needed to take things off my plate because I could only do so much with a baby bouncing around. So it's been amazing to see my daughter grow up. It's truly a privilege to spend so much time with her and pick up my son from school every day. But my friends, I keep it real. It's also really hard. So that was the personal front of it all of the last 6 years. And then on a professional front, Free to Be Mindful has six different branches, so to speak. It has therapy, speaking, the podcast, free content on social media and on YouTube. That's big. Amiga moms, and then therapy dog visits. And every branch is rooted in the same mission of helping others reduce the overwhelm, find joy, and live life intentionally. The therapy practice of Free to Be Mindful continues to serve children, young adults, and moms with transitions and school related stress, parenting related stress, identity issues. And if you are a New Jersey resident, there are spaces for new clients. And the summer, I'm so excited for because we'll also be hosting our social skills group once again. And after placing then Amiga Moms on the shelf for quite some time because I was busy becoming a mom of two, I'm thrilled to be bringing it back with first starting an in-person event on May 31st here in Richfield, New Jersey, and with brand new offerings that I'm just going to tease now. But if you go to amigamoms.com, you will see what the new offering is. And then here on the Free to Be Mindful podcast, we've published 69 episodes just in this season six, which begins in September. And then we have another six more episodes to go before the season ends at the end of June. And we brought back the Consultant Counselor series on the podcast for a little bit. And even though it ended up being too much to sustain with everything else that's happening, I did then place it on YouTube. So if you have questions for the Consultant Counselor series, they're not on the podcast anymore, but you can find the videos on YouTube, and you can continue to submit the questions anonymously via the form that's found in the show notes there. And that pivot was a reminder that we're allowed to change, right? We're allowed to change our interests, but in this case, we're allowed to do whatever we need for the season that we're in. And this year, like I mentioned, we have placed so much more attention on the Free to Be Mindful YouTube channel. We launched not just Consult a Counselor on there, and the SEL Book Talks also continue to live on there, but also I launched a new series called The Tea and Takeaways, which is a space where we chat about what's going on TV or movies through a fun clinical way. So I really like that because it's a lot more off the cuff. You see more of my personality on there, and it's just fun to watch TV and then talk about it through a therapeutic lens. And then I also have launched a newsletter on LinkedIn, which I have really enjoyed and engaging more in that community on that platform than on Instagram. Instagram is fun, but LinkedIn, I just feel like the connections are deeper and they're more real. So I've really enjoyed my time this past year on that platform. And then, of course, Ollie and I continue to spread joy during our therapy dog visits in the surrounding areas of my practice. And one of the biggest wins this year, which really like brings a smile to my face hurts from smiling right now if you're watching on YouTube, has been expanding my presence as a speaker. And this year I have been on my biggest speaking stage thus far, and sharing the Free to Be Mindful message and my mindful living framework with hundreds of professional was just a full circle moment, proof that the seeds planted such a long time ago, even before establishing the business, it was just proof that it's just continued to grow. And it's also a reminder that every single little step matters and it counts. Every conversation, every consultation, every late night, preparing and prepping and doing different things on my website, it all adds up. So I'm really, really excited about that. And of course, I still engage in coaching myself in speaking programs, in a lot of professional development and a lot of personal growth because I don't just talk about it, I also am about it. So we can always continue to learn, grow, and inspire others. And I really hold that of too much importance for myself. And through all of these moments, the big ones and the quiet ones, one theme kept showing up in the 6 year of business. And that has been to learn to ground myself in values through every season of change, through my personal values and through my professional values. And on a personal level, that means to remember that while life is unexpected, the stage of life that I'm living right now is super special, but it's also hard sometimes. And on some days, I can't get to everything that I really want to get to. Again, it's a privilege getting to work from home and to raise my daughter. That also means, though, learning to say no without guilt, which is hard, making space for rest, which is hard when there's so much that I want to do, and allowing myself to be present for myself and for my family. And then professionally, it means staying aligned with the heart and mission of Free to Be Mindful, which is making sure that every one of those 6 branches that I mentioned is making sure that what I'm offering reflects intention, impact, and integrity, because that's really, really important to me. Even as I evolve and as my business evolves, Free to Be Mindful's core value always have remained the same, and those are to support others through mindful living, mental health, and personal growth. Again, in order to reduce the overwhelm, find joy, and live life intentionally. That really is what I am about all the way around. And this year, really, actually, in these past 6 years, they've been a living reminder that change again is inevitable. We're going to go through different types of seasons. Some we plan for, some catch us really off guard. And we'll face moments of growth and moments of challenge, both professionally and personally. But through it all, what grounds us is not resisting this change, but instead it's choosing to meet it with purpose. It's staying connected to who we are, to the values that guide us, even when some of the paths feel uncertain, and even when we change course if we have to. Because it's not about controlling every twist and turn as a NASCAR driver. It's about trusting that no matter what comes next, we do have the tools, the brain in our heads, the feet on our shoes, and the heart truly to show up fully. And so today, I want to leave you with a few reflections. I want you to ask yourself, take this moment and ask yourself, where in life are you being invited to a new season? Can you tap in, think that through, and listen to that invitation? What would it look like to offer yourself patience and openness as you walk through this potential new season? And what are the small, beautiful ways that you're already growing, even if they don't feel flashy or big yet? Every day, these small things happen. We just need to be aware of them, be intentional about living them, and have gratitude for them so that we can mold them into what they are to become. Picture the season you're standing in, the beauty, the challenges, the parts where you're still figuring things out, and breathe in the openness of what's unfolding without needing to have all the answers. And as you breathe out, remind yourself that regardless of where you are in your journey, that you are grounded, that you are growing, and that you have everything that you need for the right here, right now. You don't always have to have it all figured out to celebrate how far you've come. And you don't always have to reach this perfect destination to be proud of the path that you're on. You are allowed to pause, to breathe, to be grateful, and to pivot if you need to in the right here, right now. So, my friends, truly from the bottom of my heart, with all of my soul, as corny as it sounds, I thank you. I thank you in whatever capacity you've been part of my Free to Be Mindful community. And whether you've listened to just one episode, if this is your very first one, or all 270 up to this point, whether we've connected here in the therapy space, whether it be through his speaking engagement, through podcasting on YouTube, or even through an Ollie visit, I really appreciate you. And I know that you mean so much to me, and I want you to know that your presence in any capacity really matters, and it is really, really appreciated. So thank you. Cheers with my Owala bottle of water here. Cheers to many, many years, to 6 years of Free to Be Mindful and all those years that are to come. And as always, my friends, remember, in a world where you are free to be anything, you are always free to be mindful. Catch you next time. Free to Be Mindful exists because of viewers and listeners like you. If you're enjoying the podcast or felt this week's show resonated with you, please take a moment to leave a rate and review on the platform where you catch your favorite shows. That quick and easy act allows me to see what you're enjoying so I can deliver more personalized content that focuses on learning, growing, and inspiring. It also helps others find the podcast too. Don't forget to subscribe so you can listen along next week. And if you can do me the favor and share this podcast on social or with a friend who may benefit from the message shared today, that would be truly appreciated. In the meantime, I welcome you to follow me on social media across all platforms at Counselor V. De Jesus for more fun content. And remember, my friends, in a world where you are free to be anything that you want to be, you are always free to be mindful. Catch you next week.